Oh my goodness, Frank's gonna let me talk about Nintendo and video games and all the fun stuff that I love in life because that's where I started my career.
The truth is, I kind of always want to talk about Nintendo. I just don't really have much to say about Nintendo. I'm like, I like Mario and I like the Zelda. That's about it. And end of thoughts on Nintendo.
Well, it's a super interesting time right now. And I think in video game space, it's always an interesting time because how things work nowadays is Sony and Microsoft release their consoles pretty much at the same time, right? So the Series XS and the PlayStation 5 have been out for a few years now. Supply chains kind of come, they're kind of there, right? And then we have Nintendo that does these mid-cycle, and they started doing this with the Switch or the Wii. I think I want to say where pretty much like Sony, Microsoft does a console, Nintendo will wait 2 to 3 years and then release a console, and it'll be something different. So at this
Hmm.
point, the um, the Switch is like 6, 7 years old at this point. When
Is
did
it
it
that
come out?
old?
Oh my
It's
god,
not
yeah.
that old, is it? Well, okay.
Yeah.
I have to admit, this conversation started because I said I was thinking about getting a Switch. And I even went to a
Yes.
store and I put one in my hands.
Wow.
So I have a mini review to give, but please tell me, how old is the Switch actually?
Yeah. So the Switch is officially 6 years old, 6.5 years old. That's when it became available. Now, there are three models of the Switch: the Switch and Switch Lite, which both have a 6.2-inch screen, 720p IPS on there. And then there's
Okay.
the OLED, which is also a 720p device, which has a lower PPI, funnily enough, but it's OLED and it's very
Oh, really?
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna get the OLED. Like I was
Yeah.
looking at the other screens, they seemed a little bit I know it's Nintendo and you can only pack so much into a what $400-500 device, but
No.
I was gonna go OLED. Go OLED.
So,
Go for it.
so the Switch is it was $300 when it came out, and the Switch
Yeah.
OLED was $350. So it's a little bit more. So
350.
you get that stuff. Yes.
Gosh, I
Um,
feel like the one at the store was more around 400, but maybe I'm just forgetting.
yeah.
You say there's three models. It felt like they had three models there, and it felt like there were even more models. I was looking for the bundles. Remember when the old Nintendo came out? I'm old. Remember when the old Nintendo came out and
Yes.
it came with the Super Mario? I was looking for that. They don't really do the bundles anymore, do they?
They do the bundles. They just had a
Hmm?
bundle for I think they did one for Zelda. I know they did one with Mario Kart all the time. They usually do, and you can usually get bundles that are in
Okay.
there
I failed.
often. Yeah, no,
I
it's
failed
okay
at bundling.
because
Okay.
they usually make so many of them, so they're custom XYZ. But
Well,
there's three. There's three. There's the Switch, which is the original that you dock. It comes in a dock. The Switch Lite is handheld only, so no dock. It's just everything's one system. Boom. And then the OLED is pretty much the same. You use the same detachable Joy Cons, nicer screen, upgraded dock that has a few other niceties in it, like Ethernet. But in general, it's an interesting time because it is 6 years old. The PlayStation 5 Series X is coming out. And when we think about it, I also think about hardware, right? I think about new iPhones and when's the refresh cycle when we get them. Those things come out every year. When I look at these puppies, like they're coming out every 6, 7 years, and there's a rumor mill, the rumor mill ahead in that um, pretty much that there's going to be a new one.
okay.
And then you said that you're thinking about buying this one. So then we now have a conversation on the podcast 4 minutes in. What should Frank do? Where are we at in the world of Switches, Switch Lights,
Right.
Switch Pros, Switch whatever? Should Frank go down this model? And how in the world did a NVIDIA Tegra X1/X1 Plus
X1
from
Plus.
8 years ago, 9 years ago, live until now, Frank Krueger, the system on a chip, this ARM 4 64-bit
Yeah.
beautiful processor that has 4 cores that run at 1 gigahertz. And this thing only has 4 gigs of DDR4 RAM. How did this thing just survive so long? So that's where we're at currently.
That's interesting. So the processing power is circa 2005 desktop computer. Okay.
Yes.
Funny. For 300 $350. That's really not bad if you're getting 2005 hardware. That's really not so bad. Put in that perspective, okay, here's the problem. I acknowledge that it was a good device. I liked a lot that was on the screen. Here's my problem with it, James. I didn't like it as a device. The
Mm.
clickety buttons, which Nintendo usually has the best clickety buttons on the planet, felt very, I don't know what word to use other than I'm just going to use the standard word, cheap. They felt hollow and like there's wiggle room on them, and I didn't like how they felt. I'm a Super Nintendo Entertainment System person myself,
Mm.
and the buttons should feel that way. And the buttons didn't feel that way. I was also a big Game Boy person, and I wish the buttons felt like the Game Boy, but they are
Mm.
very distinctly not Game Boy feeling. And so I decided not to buy it, but it wasn't a full decision not to buy it. It was a decision not to buy it then because the clicketiness of the buttons really depressed me. Now, James, do we just have different standards? Do you have lower standards than I? Or am I just not attuned to gamer clicketiness these days?
No, I mean the buttons that are on the Joy-Cons, which are the detachable Joy-Cons, they are definitely more clickety and less mushy. Everyone has their own opinions in general. Now, one thing that you might actually look at if you're going to put it on a dock and plug it into the TV or not, you can do it without the dock. Is a lot of people like the Pro controller because it has more of the traditional
Ooh,
setup. So the Switch
I'm gonna buy that.
Pro controller is like definitely awesome. It's like everyone's favorite, and especially if you're playing Zelda or any game that needs a lot of precision or things like that, it's definitely a way to go in general. Because else you're
Hold
gonna
up.
detach the Joy Cons.
Okay, got you. Okay, so part of this whole conversation is I just want to know what should I buy up front? Like, how does one get a Switch and be fully immersed in the yummy Switch experience? And so I was going to ask, I want to play it on the TV. Do I have to buy a unit for that? You're already telling me, okay, I got to buy a Switch. I got to get the OLED one because it's 2023. I need to buy the Pro controllers. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
money's adding up here. Now I want to play on the TV. Do I have to buy anything else?
No. The dock comes in when you buy a Switch. You're gonna get the dock, which you take the Switch and you plug it into, and that has HDMI out, right? So you can plug it into the
Okay.
TV. And it's powered. So that powers the Switch, charges it, and puts it onto the TV. I like how I'm describing how a Nintendo Switch works 6 years after it comes out to Frank Krueger.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
in the box, Frank. You don't got to pay any
Okay.
extra for that. It's in there.
So we're up to
It
three
all
items. Anything else?
it also comes with these Joy Cons that are detachable. It also comes with little holders so you can slide them in. So you can just
Mhm.
have like they call it the dog face controller. That's the little things that you slide into. Now, most people will buy a Pro controller. Okay.
Mm.
So you'll need that. Now, beyond that, Frank Krueger, these these little puppies only have 32 or 64 gigs of hard drive space built in there. So you want to get a nice chunky
Yeah.
micro SD card that slides right in the
Sure.
back right there. You can
Nice.
just dime a dozen, just put them in there.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're just going to need games. So that's really it. Now, luckily, the micro SD cards have come down a lot, but you just need
I
games
have
from there.
noticed all the games are online these days, right? So I assume I can just buy the device and just buy everything on the device, right? We're in the modern
Mhm.
era.
You
Okay.
could buy it all on the eShop, 100%, and download it all. Or if you want the physical cartridges, I'm a physical cartridge type of guy.
God,
Even though
I'm
I'm
feeling
like
very old asking these questions.
I'm like 50-50 because some games are only download and some are obviously like in the store too. It just really depends. Obviously, when you buy the game, it's just going to do a verification check. You don't want to worry about it again. The only reason to maybe buy the physical is if you owned multiple Switches. You can install the game on both of them, but one's a primary and one's a secondary. And the secondary needs to do a verification check to make sure like only one person can play it at a time, kind of like Netflix. You only have so many people playing at a time in
Mhm.
general. So that's the nice thing if you have like a physical cartridge and then you can pass it around in general. But you could obviously go to your favorite GameStop or your favorite video game swap and then pick up some nice used games in general. you need to pick up the original Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and spend about, I don't know, about 285 hours in that game. And then I think that's the thing is when I think about video games, like a lot of people are always like, well, $300, that's a lot of money. Well, I go to the movies and that's like what, $30, whatever. And that's 2 hours of enjoyment. That's $15 an hour. But if I play the Breath of the Wild if I just pay only that game and that's it for 300 hours, that's what, $1 an hour. That's pretty good return on investment, minus the other stuff. So maybe $2 an
It's
hour,
funny.
right?
I did that calculation. The last time I did that calculation, I ended up with a PlayStation, and it was for the game Journey. Anyone out there? Any Journey fans? So best game ever. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it on the podcast a million times. But I think that's the only game I bought for the PlayStation. And I bought like the entire console all for just that one game because I did the math too. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably going to spend upwards of 10 hours in this thing. Do the math.
Yeah. Now, the real question ends up coming down is if Nintendo does release another console, is it going to be backwards compatibility? What's the cycle there? Now, are you a Nintendo person? Would this be your first Nintendo console since the SNES or something like that?
Look, childhood traumas, okay? We never had enough money to have the best hardware. So I never had the best PC hardware, so I never had the best games. I'm quite accustomed to playing the best games 5 to 10 years later. So I have absolutely no problem while everyone else is going and getting their Switch 2s, Switch 2 Pluses. But hopefully Breath of the Wild will come down in $10 and I'll buy it at a $10 rebate, even though it seems like it's holding its price, even though Zelda 2 is coming out. So that's awkward. It's out. Oh,
yep. Tears of the Kingdom. Yep. It's out there.
Okay. Post-summer gift to myself. Lost track of what I was saying there, but I'm used to playing stuff late. So I don't need to chase the shiniest new hardware because I'm here for the game, man. I want to go explore that forest, and new hardware is not going to change that forest.
No, I think it's a great way of looking at it. I agree with you. I was always a one console or half a generation behind. The only way I could get a Super NES was if I sold my NES, which of course I didn't do until later on when the Super NES came down in price. I didn't get an N64 until later on the cycle. And then, eventually I was like, I'm going to be a day one person once I got a job and I worked at GameStop. Right. So I was, day oneer on everything and I have been for a while. And, I think it's really interesting because I'm a big Game Pass subscriber person from Xbox, love my, Series S. I've had a Nintendo Switch since day one. Heather has a Switch Lite. I've upgraded to the OLED. My old one is a dedicated pinball machine at this point, which is great. And I've never played a console probably as much as I've played this one in a long time. I haven't played a lot in the last few years just because I've kind of just been so busy doing other stuff. But, I think in general, I think you're right is when I look at the Nintendo Switch or any of the current consoles, like there's just the Nintendo Switch is great because you would be coming into it with 6 years of choices. And the cool part about the Switch that I like about so much, I did an entire Nintendo podcast with my buddies as well, which we don't do anymore, but they eventually handed off and stuff. But the cool part is what Nintendo did is when they released the Wii U, which was not a success as much as the Wii or the Switch, obviously. With the Wii U, there were great games, but not a lot of people played them because not a lot of people bought the Wii U. So they ended up over the years not only releasing new games that are independently Switch exclusive, they upgraded a lot of those Wii U games to the Nintendo Switch, which means to everyone else, they look like new games. Like there are literally a plethora of games that have sold millions, 20 plus millions games sold, right? And there's so many amazing games from Nintendo and from third party, because it's built on this X1 Tegra chip and they've really made it a non-proprietary chipset. It's enabled developers like Panic Button, for example, to figure out how to get games like Wolfenstein and Doom, not the originals, but the new ones, right? Running on the Nintendo Switch, which is running the super pretty old, chipset at this point, which means you get to dip into all of those things, right? And I think that's what's really neat coming into it at this point is that it's not going to be the fastest console, it's not going to be the highest crazy graphics resolutions, but the Nintendo games all look amazing. And to you, you're just going to be like, this is great.
I really kind of want to segue into the developer thing there, because okay, so that's cool. So it's an ARM chip. It sounds like you were reading me the specs earlier. It's an ARM chip. Cool. We know how to program ARM chips. We know how 64-bit works on there. And you were saying it's NVIDIA. I'm curious what the actual graphics APIs look like from a developer perspective. Should we pivot into developer there for a second? Because I do want to just keep going back to in some ways the hardware doesn't even matter. I do have just one quick point to make there. I was watching some YouTube. I watch way too much YouTube. And
Me too.
I was watching someone review old Knights of the Old Republic from the Xbox. And they got it running somehow on a modern PC, running in like super high res and everything. And, I appreciate that they did that for the YouTube video, but I don't think I would enjoy the game as much to my eyes because it was just too crisp. The crisp polygons made the textures look blurry because the textures upsampled correctly. The environments weren't upsampled correctly. And so you get this almost like uncanny valley, I feel like. So I almost want to play games on the hardware they were designed for because I think that's where they're just going to look their best and sweetest.
Yeah, it's always hard to emulation. I have like a Retroid 2 Plus, which like can emulate like everything under the sun, and I have a bunch of other old consoles. But like actually playing a Game Boy game on a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Color, like it's to me just like brings a smile to my face of that retro classic because that's what it was meant for.
Yeah, I will say if there's a game I play all the time and a new piece of hardware comes out, of course I'm going to get the HD version of that game for that hardware because I want to keep playing that game. None of the games I ever played have survived console generations for me.
Yeah. So here's my synopsis. 17 minutes in, I watch a lot of different IGN and YouTube clips, and a lot of people right now are talking all about the Nintendo stuff. Like the question is, should you buy a Nintendo Switch in 2023, nearing the end of 2023? Yes. I think the answer is, if you're not a person that needs the latest and greatest, I think it's still a good purchase. The one fear would be like the Switch 2 or Switch Pro or whatever they come out with comes out next year. And then you're like, oh man, it's like $50 more, or maybe it's the same price, right? And you're like, oh, what do I do, right? Then I would say to you and everyone this, and I'm really into many of these metaphors, like, but you could have been playing Legend of Zelda for the last year. You could have had how much more enjoyment, right? So there's that trade-off in there. So do I still think it's a good investment? Like, yeah, I think it's actually a pretty good investment. Especially, I have to imagine Nintendo will do backwards compatibility, even if it's like a weird, wacky Nintendo-y way. But also, in the tradition of like what I'm imagining they'll end up doing, I have to imagine of how Nintendo, because they're a company unlike any other when it comes to hardware, which is they're not about losing money on hardware, right? They're not about breaking even. They want to make money on hardware. Like they're not, they'll do other things like make it dockable in a weird thing to use a chip from, 2005, 2015.
Yeah. Okay. So, like, even the entire time you were talking about the number 2, whatever version 2, all I kept thinking was, okay, I could wait a year and save $50 because I don't see the Switch 1. Maybe in 2 years it'll become cheap or just not on the shelves, and then you get cheap used ones or whatever. But I see them dropping this price $50 and the new one coming out $50 more or $100 more because it's 2023. Everything's more expensive now. And so I think that's what's going to happen. So I appreciate your news of the Switch 2. I appreciate. Do you think they'll get the X2 chip? That'd be hot, but or it'll just be an X1. But I don't think I'll sweat it that much. Like you said, I'd rather be playing Call of the Wild sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's interesting. The chipset that powers the Switch is a Tegra X1. And I know this chip because I owned the original NVIDIA Shield Android TV. And that thing was really cool because it actually came with a game controller. You could play games on it. You could stream games to it. And that was back in 2015. I think I even got the upgraded model from 2017 too. I really liked it before switching to Android TV. To Apple TV. And the fascinating part is this is the exact same chipset that Nintendo is using in there, right? So NVIDIA used it almost as a reference set for the Android TV. And funnily enough, the Google Pixel C used it, which I think was like the tablet or whatever they did as well. Now they have an X1 Plus, which is what the OLED model uses, and some of the newer ones. And my assumption is they ran out of X1 chips. That's my assumption on the street, right? Because they only make so many chips. Why would they still make this old chip? And then NVIDIA did come out with a newer Android TV in 2019. So the crazy part is like this chip is only being used in Android Shield TVs and Nintendo Switches, and that's it. But to your point earlier, it's an ARM Cortex A53, A57 processor that is like kind of standard. It's an ARM 64 device, right?
Yeah, I was going to say this is where software kind of wins because it's a standard instruction set. So we have a million compilers that can output it. It's really just a matter of getting a operating system bootstrapped on there. They chose Linux probably because it's Android, like you keep saying. So I assume they just went the Linux route. And so it's kind of like, good job, software. We finally abstracted hardware to some degree. I mean, it's an identical instruction set and all that kind of stuff, but that just makes porting software to it easier and all the better, especially given all the Android developers out there. So, James, is it this also? I want to preface my question with this doesn't matter at all to me, but is there a developer story thing with this device? Can I click a button 30 times, up, down, down, left, right? Can I enable some developer mode on it or anything like that?
Funnily enough, I don't actually think you can. That being said, I believe you do need to be well, I don't really know exactly how it works. I'm imagining that there is some sort of developer thing because there's tons of indie games, tons of tiny little games that are out there. I'm assuming that you have to get a developer kit, or maybe they give you something that's in there. I'd have to go look it up. But Unity supports this. Unreal Engine supports it, so you could create a game in Unreal and C# and you get it running on the Switch, for example, right? And there's tons of Unity games that are out there that are doing that across the board. There's even monogame games that have been like recompiled down that were very, very popular, like Towerfall, for example, that was brought over, or Celeste, for example, which is all monogame, which are very popular indie games as well. There's tons of amazing games. Yeah.
I can't help myself. I'm going to have to look all that up. Now I want a dev kit. I always like to get dev kits. I wonder how much one costs.
You can go to
I wonder how many lawyers I need.
developer.nintendo.com. I feel like I should know this, funnily enough.
Yeah, Mr. Developer, you should be on top of this. I have an excuse. I choose not to write video games. But that's not to say I wasn't a little bit interested. I mean, it's a giant screen. I was a little bit amazed with it finally in my hand. And I know every kid in the audience is rolling their eyes, but I was surprised at how large it is. I'm like, oh, okay, this thing really should just be running apps also.
Yeah. I think it's pretty straightforward to do it. Like, there's a process here for it, and you do have to put in a developer system. It says create your account, prepare for Nintendo development, sign into the portal, sign an NDA, gain access to SDKs, dev portal, information on how to get started, access to Nintendo Switch information requires separate, blah, blah, blah. Develop your game, prepare to sell your game, and submit your Imperial. So maybe there is a developer mode that they unlock and connect your account or something like that. I'm very, very fascinated in how that works inside of it. Yeah.
I am going to port my favorite board game to the Nintendo Switch, and we will report back. It will be a fun ongoing series. It's a very
Yeah.
simple game. I think I can do it. I think I
Boom.
can get approved.
I wouldn't see why not. You know, it says individual or corporation, so you can register any of them in general. There's all sorts of games. And it says, "Can I work from home?" And it says, "Yes, they accept home
Mhm.
offices." So perfect. There's that. So maybe you don't even need hardware. Maybe, geez, wow. I feel like if you don't, I feel like I'm going to register my Nintendo Switch and just start developing
Yeah,
something on it for fun. That's for
exactly.
sure. Yeah.
Now, are you going to go the Unity route, or I think I'm going to be the nerd, and because I can't help myself, I'm going to read the docs and use like the minimal project that they can open up and compile for it. I think I'm going to go that way because I like to learn. I like to play with new platforms. So the real kicker will be if it's just like use Android Studio and write an Android app. Then it'll be like, oh, well, that makes sense too.
Yeah. I don't think it's that. I do think it is Unity or C++. So I think that's pretty much it. But I mean, there's other things
Yeah,
too, like obviously Unreal Engine, a few other things support it. But I think those compile down to run C++
sure.
and whatever code that ends up happening in general for it. But yeah, I'm excited for that because I think that makes a lot of sense. I just haven't really been a game developer, but I'm like, I built games
No.
for what is this? It's a tablet, you know, with a
Well,
touchscreen.
okay. I do say I'm not a game developer, but the game I have in mind is small enough that I'd be willing to do it. I'm not a big game developer because, oh my God, what a time sink they are. So anything beyond a simple board game or a card game, I would never put that much time into. But I think I'd be willing to do this one. I didn't
Well,
at all mean to go this developer route. I really just wanted to talk about how cool Zelda is, how I'm looking forward to playing some Zelda, but now I'm excited to port my board game.
well, when you think about it, just because it's a game console doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be restricted to games. I could imagine a world where iCircuit 3D has a touchscreen. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, could be on it. I
it'd be
know it's
fun.
not probably developed in the correct way that would need to be ported over, but if you want to port it over to Unity, or to compile it down to C++, like I do think that that would probably do fairly well. Like there's keyboard applications, there's programming IDEs like on the Switch, in general, like to program in different languages and whatnot. There's full apps that are out there. I think that same thing was true for Xbox for a long time and PlayStation. There's all sorts of different apps, right? There's apps and games now. These things are really multimedia devices. I think the Switch is primarily more focused on games, but not 100%, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
has Hulu and Netflix and these other things that you can take on the go. So there are full apps that are in there. And that's the really interesting part is that these game consoles, this generation more than ever, have transformed into bigger tablets that either are just on your TV or on the go and on your TV at the end of the day.
All right. All right. So I got to write a TV app. I've got to write a game, and I've got to port iCircuit over to it. This all sounds doable, even though I'm also going to put in 250 hours into Zelda. But
Correct.
it's going to happen. And I will give it a shot though. So we'll report back.
Okay. We can see right now, I can boot up because I'm pretty sure that I tried to get back into Zelda recently, and I'm pretty sure that it was really hard for me to do. But if
Oh,
I look at my hours played, oh no, it doesn't have it on this Switch, my original one. But I was at like 200 and some odd hours, that's for sure. So
I
I have to
usually
look at
get
my,
bored after around 100, but we'll see. Depends
not
on the
this
game.
game. It just keeps going.
No?
It's the game that keeps giving forever, and like I would recommend just going. I'm like 3 out of
Yeah,
4 guardians down.
that's how I
So
play.
yeah,
I ignore all
go.
story elements. I walk straight into the forest and kill as many bats as I can find. I
So
just
are
go
you going to
hunting for
go
bats.
back? Is there a store on the island that you can go to and get this thing?
Oh, if you ask the internet for something and if you're patient, it eventually arrives on your doorstep. I don't know. I don't know how any of that stuff works. I click buttons and an Excel sheet changes and then a Nintendo Switch arrives. But I
I guess.
was at a store. This all started because I was killing time waiting for a ferry, and I went to a store,
Mm,
and that's when I was giving my quick demo and learned I don't like the clickety click buttons of it, but I will try the Pro controller,
Pro
and
controller
we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
is nice. Pro controller is like where it's at. Um, yes, you can get it. You can get the the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom edition. I'm pretty sure it does not come with the game. For $359. I think it's just themed. Else the OLED models are $349. It's amazing. It just hasn't gone down in price like ever.
Yeah.
It's astonishing to me. It just keeps up there. And they used to have bundles, but that was it. Yeah. Game, it's like game not included, but it just has like other things. Anyways, yeah, you just go buy it and probably just get it. And that would probably be great for you to have in general. And then we can become friends. That's cool. Give me my friend's code. It's so old school.
I like single player RPGs. Like I said, I just want to go out into the forest and find all the bats. That's what I'm here for. I like to
all sorts of stuff.
Well, the last time I was a completionist on Zelda, it was like, you had to like push rocks. So I had to push every rock. I had to burn every bush. I had to explode every rock before I felt like I'd actually finished the game.
Yeah.
So I plan on doing the same.
There's lots of rocks to be pushed, and there's also shrines. So the whole thing is like there's shrines that you go into, and then there's optional shrines, so you can be a shrine completionist. And there's DLC, so you can just keep going. Yeah, keeps going and going and going. But anyways, I think your purchase will be great. I think that you'll enjoy it, and I'm excited to see how you report back in general. If you can go locate one of these sweet devices. So buying a Nintendo Switch in 2023. Here it is. And now, could you also use it as a tax or write-off, a business write-off, because you're going to develop for it?
100%. I mean, that's the whole reason I was happy that it actually had a developer mode. I said I didn't have anything in, no horses on the race, but I had a horse in that race. So, yeah, 100%. So it's going to be a little bit of a race. Who gets theirs into developer mode first? Mine has to arrive first, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to register right now. Any other questions that you have, Frank, about the Nintendo Switch?
Okay. So I don't have to buy anything else. I need an SD card, a Nintendo Switch, the Pro controller, and that was it. I'm good.
That's it.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to join 6 years ago or whatever.
Micro SD, you can get like a 512, 256. Doesn't have to be a terabyte. Just 256 is fine. I don't even know what I have in mind. Let me see. Let me tell you what I have right now.
I'm gonna have 3 games, 2 Zeldas and a Mario.
256. You'll be fine. I have like a bajillion games.
Yeah, but you're rich.
Oh, it got mad at me because I took out the SD card. It's like, I got to power off. Anyways, yes, that's it. That's all you need to buy. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. Let's become game developers, James.
Let's do it. I'm registering right now. All right. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. If you have questions about the Nintendo Switch, you can ask us on the internet at mergeconflict.fm on Twitter or on mergeconflict.fm, the website. There's a contact button. If you do own a Nintendo Switch and you have recommendations for Frank Krueger, tweet at him at Proclarum. You can find that on the website. Give him all your sweet recommendations. Was I wrong? Should Frank have not purchased a Nintendo Switch? Let us know. We'd be super interested, but he's in now. It's wild times, people. That's going to do it for this week's Merge Conflict. So until next week, I'm James Montemagno.
And I'm Frank Krueger. Thanks for listening.
And watching. Peace.